Chapter 1. Ling Tian's Vengeance. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Ling Tian's Vengeance. Translator David T. Editor. The sun rose and daybreak arrived. The surface of the ocean glistened in the sunlight and the waves rose and fell like the gentle rocking of a mother's embrace. Wave by wave, it continued to rise and fall without end. In a faraway place, a colony of seagulls flew up into the skies, circling in the skies for a long time. Ling Tian, with a suave face and beautiful complexion, was dressed in a snow-white windbreaker, appearing as though he was a marble figurine. He sat on the yacht and completely blended with it as his body rose and fell together with the waves. His fringe blew with the winds, and a mysterious smile spread across his face with an intense look in his eyes. He melded into this beautiful picture and everything looked to be in complete harmony. Even the pickiest of painters would not be able to find any flaws in this natural picture. Ling Tian's expression did not reveal any joy or surprise as he silently enjoyed the beautiful scenery around him. But in reality, his heart was in turmoil and he was deeply troubled as the matters of the past flashed through his memory. Ling Tian came from the most mysterious ancient martial family in China. The Ling family. Ever since he was young, he received the most brutal of trainings and was smarter than his peers. At the age of 15, he was already a head above the rest and was unbeatable amongst people from his generation. Be it inner or physical martial arts, the 4 arts of a Chinese scholar, 1, or other miscellaneous things. He was regarded as the hope of the younger generation in the Ling family and was the most outstanding representative. As he thought about that, bitterness was inevitably displayed through Ling Tian's eyes. Ling Tian was born from the second side branch of the Ling family and was not of direct descent. As such, ever since he became famous when he was 15, the second side branch of the Ling family was not only given more attention but also ruthlessly suppressed by those of direct descent. As Ling Tian turned 16, the second side branch was already in a perilous situation. If not for the protection of a few elders in the family, the second side branch might have been completely wiped out because of Ling Tian. A conspiracy finally happened in the midst of the silence. Ling Tian remembered clearly that it happened during summer when he was 17. It was only 11 days before the Mid-Autumn Festival when he had gone to the lakeside because he was feeling frustrated. However, he had unexpectedly found his younger sister, Ling Shuer, drowning in the water. Ling Tian did not have a good impression of this sister of his as he felt that she was too materialistic and competitive. Thus, he would usually keep a distance from her. But no matter what, he would never leave her in the lurch in such a situation. Seeing Ling Shuer crying for help in the water, Ling Tian did not think of anything and jumped in immediately. At that moment, Ling Tian did not even find it strange for Ling Shuer, who was always surrounded by people, to be by the lake alone. How was it possible for a girl who grew up by the river to not be able to swim? How was it possible for someone with such profound martial skills like Ling Shuer to fall into the lake without any rhyme or reason? Wasn't it strange for the usually proud Ling Shuer to cry out for help? Perhaps Ling Tian considered all of these things. Perhaps he did not consider any of these. But no matter what, he still jumped in to save this sister of his whom he disliked since he was young. Although Ling Tian was smart and was not one with simple thoughts, he was only a 17-year-old child at the end of the day. Ling Tian, who had never come into contact with the outside world, was still extremely pure despite being pressured by the family. He would never have expected that they would resort to such means just because of authority. Just when Ling Tian jumped into the water and approached Ling Shuer, the weak Ling Shuer suddenly became extremely energetic and fought him in the water. At the same time, she began to cry out for help with a pitiful voice full of fear. In that instant, Ling Tian realized that Ling Shuer's clothes were actually in tatters. It was as though someone had torn it apart by force. Then, Ling Tian began to feel that something was wrong. Just when he wanted to break free from Ling Shuer and head back up to shore, the shore was already filled with a large group of people. Ling Tian's mind immediately turned blank because everyone present was a direct descendant in the family. This is definitely a trap. A trap enough to destroy my reputation completely. What a joke, I actually jumped in without guarding against her completely. Of course, Ling Xuer was rescued up to shore. Then, she bitterly complained about how Ling Tian tried to rape her. Her torn clothes became the biggest evidence for her claim that Ling Tian threw her into the water out of frustration when she tried to resolutely defend herself. At that moment, the 50-odd people surrounding the lake became the eyewitnesses. The evidence was concrete. Ling Tian's actions were dishonorable. Not only had he tried to usurp power in the family through lustful means, but also tried to rape his own younger sister in the family. His actions were extremely vile, making one's hair stand at the thought of it. He was worse than a beast. The family head personally gathered the 5 elders of the sect and made a judgment towards Ling Tian. Throughout this process, Ling Tian did not say a single word. In actual fact, he no longer had the need to say anything. In just that instant, Ling Tian was no longer the hope, but rather, the shame of the family. The second side branch of the family which Ling Tian was in was also affected by that incident and thus, was not allowed to interfere with family affairs for the following 10 years. Ling Tian's parents did not bring him up properly and they had their freedoms restrained. They were not allowed to step out of the family for life. As for Ling Tian, he was the main offender and was a degenerate of the family. Thus, his punishment was also the harshest. His martial arts was completely crippled and he was chased out of the sect, never to return to the sect in his lifetime. Ling Tian was thrown out from the family just like trash. Throughout the whole process, Ling Tian was in a daze as though he was in a dream. From then on, Ling Tian led a miserable life. Although Ling Tian was already chased out of the sect, his cousins did not intend to let him off. They found the greatest joy in humiliating someone whom they could never have hoped to even reach in the past. They never left his everyday life as if they were Ling Tian's shadow, and used every means possible to humiliate the man they used to look up to. For 3 whole years, the proud genius was struggling in a life worse than hell. Only after 3 years did his younger sister, Ling Menger, find a chance to save him by sending him to the Eastern Ocean far away from the family. Only then did his torture end. Every now and then, Ling Menger visited Ling Tian to give him some daily necessities and update him about the situation within the sect. As time slowly passed, the Ling family seemed to have completely forgotten the existence of this genius in the family. But Ling Tian could never forget everything which he had gone through. Revenge had become the only reason for his survival. The first elder who crippled his martial arts did not show him a shred of mercy at all. It was impossible to take revenge with martial arts from then on. In those few years, Ling Tian spent all of his time on firearms. The cold firearms had become the only resort he was left with. Just 3 months ago, Ling Menger visited for the last time to inform Ling Tian that Ling Xuer, who framed him before, was going to get married with the young master of the Huang family. The wedding was slated to take place at the Eastern Ocean and Ling Tian was subtly told that it would be an extremely luxurious one. All of the large families and societal powers would be present to witness the blissful moment of Ling Xuer. As for the Ling family, all of the young talents and 3 elders would be present. As Ling Menger delivered the news, Ling Tian slipped into silence, not saying a single word until Ling Menger left. Before Ling Menger left, she said, "I know what you are thinking of. I also know what the only thing you want to do in this lifetime is. If you want to do it, you can dial this number. No matter what you need, the person who picks up the line will arrange everything for you nicely." Ling Menger then left a name card and disappeared from the sights of Ling Tian with confidence. Ling Tian just sat there for a whole day and night without moving as though he was a rock. The following day, he resolved to make the phone call after a whole night of consideration. Ling Tian knew that that was his best chance. If he missed it, he might never be able to take his revenge. Furthermore, that was also an ultimatum that his sister was giving to him. If he could eliminate everyone at the wedding, all of the various families would definitely suffer greatly. Especially the Ling family, which would suffer a catastrophic damage capable of destroying them. From the whole event, the only ones who would be able to benefit would be his own sister, Ling Menger, and the branch which he was from. After he understood this point, many of his doubts in the past were cleared. Ling Menger, this na.v.looking sister whom he took such great care of, was actually hiding such shrewdness. She was actually able to plan so far ahead. Her ambitions were actually so huge. Without a doubt, Ling Menger had been planning this Eastern Ocean scheme for at least 5 years. Ever since he was chased out of the sect, Ling Menger had plenty of opportunities to secretly save him. But she still chose to let him live in that hell for a full 3 years. Perhaps she had only completed the plan on the day she saved him. The most important piece of puzzle in the whole plan was himself. With his abnormal ability to calculate and set traps, as well as his deep understanding of explosives, Ling Tian was the rare genius in the family. Besides, he was prepared to die for revenge. All of these would not materialize without a single piece of the puzzle. But Ling Menger was finally able to look forward to such a day. Now every piece of the puzzle finally fell into place. After he understood all these, a chill rose from the depths of Ling Tian's heart, turning even his limbs cold. The last shred of goodness in his heart also disappeared. At the same time, the gratitude he felt towards Ling Menger also became hatred. No wonder his sister and everyone from his branch did not bother pleading for him when he was crippled and chased out from the family. They had already treated him like a tool. A tool for authority. The whole event of Ling Xuer framing him was not only because of the direct descendants. It was also something that the second side branch was looking forward to. Crippling his martial arts and chasing him out of the sect was to eliminate the potential danger he posed to the direct descendants. Yet, he became a hidden nuclear bomb instead. The planning process had actually occurred without any signs for a whole 5 years. It was no wonder then that Ling Menger sent him to the Eastern Ocean instead of all places in the world. The location for the wedding between Ling Xuer and young Master Huang had probably been decided a decade ago. At the same time, the plot which Ling Xuer had been planning for was to strike them during the wedding. Now, there was already a large amount of explosives buried under the Huang family mansion where the wedding was going to take place. The explosives that were more than enough to transform a small hill into a small lake were silently buried under the ground, waiting to be activated. The only thing that was missing was someone to ignite it. No matter who were to ignite the explosives, the person would die for sure. In this world, only a small amount of people would be willing to give up their lives for ideals. Not everyone would have the courage to sacrifice themselves like that. However, Ling Tian was different. The only reason Ling Tian was still alive was for revenge. Ling Tian had an irreconcilable feud with Ling Xuer. Moreover, after being humiliated by the direct descendants for 3 years, it was impossible for him to exist with them. In order to bring all these people to hell with him, he was willing to do so even if it meant that he would die a horrible death. In fact, he was glad to do so. After Ling Tian dialed the number, he only requested for a few important tools. At the same time, Ling Tian warned them not to make any rash moves. Before igniting the explosives, this mission solely belonged to him. Ling Tian knew that if there were any anomalies, it would be enough to ruin the whole revenge mission. Hence, Ling Tian could not afford such a risk. Although he had unknowingly become a chess piece, he was still quite satisfied with his role. Menger, my sister. Although you are only using me, I am thankful. Ling Tian became silently steadfast. Since you want that family in that position, then I will help you. 1. The 4 arts of a Chinese scholar refers to the zither, chess, calligraphy and painting. Chapter 2. Mutual Destruction. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Mutual Destruction. Translator David T. Editor. It was the 9th day of the 9th lunar month. The cool autumn winds blew and the sky was a beautiful blue. Today was not only a meaningful day of celebration for the Chinese, but also a day where two of the largest families of the country, or even world, were having a marriage. The young lady of the Ling family, Ling Shuer, and the young master of the Huang family, Huang Jiayun, were going to broadcast their marriage to the world today. The location of the wedding was the Huang family mansion by the Eastern Ocean. A month ago, the Huang family renovated this mansion to make it look like a palace. Luxurious and magnificent as though it came out from a painting. Half a month ago, guests from all over the world had begun to arrive. They were afraid that they would miss this wedding and the chance to cling onto some global big shots. As time grew near, the main characters from both families had yet to arrive, but the Huang family mansion was already filled with people. The skies were filled with colorful banners flying with the winds, and the mansion was like a sea of rose petals. Following which, the deafening sound of the rotating helicopter blades filled the skies as two helicopter squadrons slowly flew over with a majestic grandeur. A completely red helicopter took the lead in the center and to its left and right were 9 helicopters. Colorful strips of streamers were let out as they flew past, making it seem like the 19 helicopters were riding on a rainbow from afar. Such a formation could only be described as mind-blowing. This was the escort fleet of the Ling family. In the age when the tradition of marriages was to fetch one with a wedding car, the Ling family made history with a helicopter escort. As the luxurious escort fleet was revealed, the crowd immediately broke out into a thunderous applause. At ground level, an ear-splitting gun salute sounded as pairs of gorgeous couples gradually disembarked from the helicopters. Just at this moment, everyone's view was blocked by the rose petals which filled the skies and everyone was only capable of seeing a sea of rose petals. Only after the helicopter landed on the ground did the fragrant roses scatter all over, filling the mansion with a lovely fragrance and painting the whole mansion a bright red. It was as though the rosy clouds from the morning sky were forcefully dragged down, transforming the mansion into a blood-red color. A young lady was dressed in a pristine white wedding gown with a face full of smiles. She looked as though she had gracefully descended from the skies like a fairy as she stepped on the rose petals. She was the bride of today. The Ling family's Ling Shuer. Such a beautiful scene made everyone dumbfounded, especially the leisurely arriving beauty who could not help but make everyone feel a sense of inferiority. Seeing her slowly approaching, everyone instinctively let out a path for her. In the sea of rose petals, a young suave man stood there dressed in a black suit. He was Huang Jiayun, the groom and the young master of the Huang family. Upon seeing the both of them, everyone could not help but exclaim in their hearts. What a perfect pair! Huang Jiayun was extremely excited, because no one understood what this marriage meant better than him. After this marriage, he would become the spokesperson within the younger generation of the Huang family. Even in the world, he would be someone with sufficient authority. Furthermore, Ling Shuer was the dream girl in his heart. Today, he could finally fulfill his ambitions and bring the beauty home. He ignored the envious gazes and complicated expressions of his brothers beside him. After today, they would all be at his beck and call. Now, he no longer had to care about them at all. His status was already set in stone and nothing could change it anymore. Meanwhile, Huang Jiayun walked towards the beauty with a carefree smile. As though they were the center of the universe, everyone escorted the groom and bride towards the center of the hall. Everything was completely following Ling Tian's plans. The marriage was both grand and festive, in accordance to the traditional customs of China. Just when everyone was gathered in the main hall giving their blessings, a clear voice suddenly resonated throughout the place. Younger sister Shuer, today is your big day and this brother here came from a few thousand kilometers away just to give you a gift. This voice was extremely clear, slow and steady, void of any tinge of emotion as though it was just a casual conversation. Ling Shuer, who was undergoing the traditional rituals of marriage, began to tremble all of a sudden. Her facial expression then revealed anxiousness and guilt filled her eyes. Everyone from the Ling family's expressions immediately changed. They had already recognized who the voice belonged to. They hadn't heard this voice for 8 years and they never expected to hear it again during such an important occasion. Everyone from the Ling family was not an idiot. They all knew that the event back then was a pre-planned trap. Furthermore, that single trap executed by just one woman destroyed the rare genius of the Ling family side branch. After that incident, when the elders in the family thought about that event and that person, they were filled with a myriad of emotions. Some felt pity, while some were angry. Others were thankful and relieved as if a burden was lifted off their shoulders. Everyone then turned and looked towards the entrance of the hall. Under everyone's gaze, a young man clad in white calmly walked in with both hands in his pockets. He was tall and slim with a composed face and slight smile. He had a unique charisma, and looked extremely carefree and at ease, as though he was a cloud in the sky drifting with the winds. Huang Jiayun instinctively felt a sense of danger as he stared at the man in white and questioned, "Who are you?" As he said that, he looked towards Ling Xuer who was standing beside him. Ling Tian naturally knew what Huang Jiayun was thinking about and said laughingly, "Don't be worried, young Master Huang. I am not your love rival. I am Xuer's brother, Ling Tian." Only then did Huang Jiayun heave a sigh of relief as he replied energetically, "So it is brother in law. Why didn't brother in law come with your uncles and instead came alone?" At the same time, he silently thought to himself. Since when did Ling Xuer suddenly have an extra brother? How come I didn't know that? Nonetheless, he was extremely relieved, thinking. As long as he isn't a man who is here to snatch Xuer, all is well. The first elder of the Ling family, Ling Jing, then stepped forward and shouted with a solemn expression, "Ling Tian, we can settle our affairs in private. This is not a place for you to create trouble." Ling Jing was indeed a crafty old fox, as she immediately realized that something was amiss for Ling Tian to be present. Ling Tian laughed and said with a sharp gaze, eldest grandpa, then when is the time for me to create trouble? Is it when I rape her again, Despite Ling Tian's wholehearted smile and calm voice, the words he uttered were extremely vicious. As Ling Tian spoke, the whole atmosphere in the hall changed instantly. Everyone present began to break out into a commotion. Just who is this man? How dare he single-handedly come here to disrupt the marriage of two gigantic families? Don't tell me he has a strong backing. Almost everyone present had the same guess. Ling Jing's face became extremely serious because he knew that this grandchild of his was extremely smart and would never do anything which he had no confidence of. Now that he had appeared, today's matters would definitely not be settled peacefully. However, Ling Jing did not know what Ling Tian's trump card was. Ling Jing could only make some arrangements in secret to reduce the losses today to a minimum. Ling Jing then placed both his hands behind his back, giving a light wave. In response, all the Ling family disciples began to retreat. A teen dressed in a black suit then walked forward and said with a grin, "I was wondering who it was. So, it is the fine young gentleman of our Ling family. I say, little Ling Tian, are you sure you did not take the wrong medicine?" Ling Tian replied with a chuckle, "Oh, it is brother Ling Chao. I have not seen you for such a long time. Brother Ling Chao really treated me so dearly back then. This brother here has been so worried for you ever since we separated 5 years ago. I have been having trouble sleeping thinking of you ever since." Ling Chao was the one who humiliated Ling Tian the most after his martial arts was crippled. Ling Chao then said with a forced smile, "Really? I really missed this brother of mine dearly. I have always wondered which rubbish chute my brother has been finding moldy bread from. I hope you don't starve." He pretended to be extremely concerned, revealing a frown. Rest assured, brother. Even if brother Ling Tian can't find any moldy bread, he would not go hungry. Plenty of vegetables is thrown away at the market every day, I'm sure brother Tian enjoys it a lot. A sissy voice sounded from a skinny teen behind Ling Chao. A pair of idiots. Ling Jing cursed in his heart. For Ling Tian to appear out in the open as such, he must have made appropriate plans for his revenge. With Ling Tian's intelligence, everyone here was already in a perilous situation. But these two idiots were still adding oil to the fuel and angering him further. Ling Xuer took a step forward and with a dreamy look, she said, "Brother Tian, this little sister has let you down regarding the matters back then. But many years have passed ever since. Today is this little sister's big day, can't you just take a seat and enjoy a cup of wedding wine peacefully?" Ling Tian burst out into laughter and replied gently, "Little sister Xuer is too serious. I have long forgotten about the past. Today, Ling Tian is here because I have another deep regret in my heart which I must say." Ling Xuer frowned and asked with an indescribable passion in her eyes, "I wonder what brother Tian can't put down. If this little sister is able to help, I will definitely do my best to do so." Ling Tian's eyes then turned cold as he said with a ruthless smirk, "There is a Yellow Springs road which I should have taken long ago. But I've always couldn't bear to do so." Ling Chao then interrupted with a cold laughter, "That is because you have not eaten enough rubbish, so of course you can't bear to." Ling Tian ignored him and continued, "Today, I want to walk down that road. But I am just not satisfied." Ling Jing instinctively had a bad premonition and asked, "What are you not satisfied with?" Ling Tian then burst into laughter, "I am not satisfied that a bunch of trash like you all will be the ones accompanying me down that road. Ha 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 ha." The Huang family head was immediately startled as he instantly guessed Ling Tian's trump card, explosives. Ling Tian turned to him and praised, "Indeed, you're worthy of being the head of the Huang family. Your reaction is fast indeed." Ling Jing then roared, "Hurry and capture him, do not allow him to ignite the explosives." As he shouted, he had already dashed out. He was extremely aware that even if he were to catch Ling Tian now, it was already far too late. Thus, he thought that he should take the chance to leave first, possibly saving his life. Ling Tian looked to the skies and burst out with a maniacal laughter, "It's too late, ha ha ha, it's too late. If you had escaped from the moment I came in, you may have been able to save your life. But now, ha 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 ha." Following the maniacal laughter, an explosion suddenly sounded along with other explosions throughout the mansion. Both inside and outside, all the people could not keep their balance as the ground trembled. The buildings within the mansion were all blown apart and cries of agony were heard all over. The place where the helicopters landed was all blown apart as well, making it seem like the world was ending. Ling Tian was unable to stand up straight due to the tremors from the explosion. Sitting on the floor, he said with a hearty laughter as he saw all of the people frantically trying to hide, "Don't bother hiding. Although the effect of this bomb can't be compared with the atomic bomb the United States used on Japan, it wouldn't be too far from it. Ha ha ha." A cruel expression filled Ling Chao's face as he held a short blade. He then roared mournfully, "Ling Tian, even if we are going to die, you will die first." Then, he charged towards Ling Tian with his blade. Ling Tian did not avoid him, letting the blade plunge into his chest as the blood spewed all over. He only continued to laugh out loud maniacally. The strongest explosion finally happened as a few mushroom-shaped clouds appeared in the skies. Below, the Huang family mansion could no longer be seen, replaced with a deep crater. The dam from afar was also blown apart, causing the waves to rush in. From then on, there was a new ring-shaped bay in the Eastern Ocean. A couple of kilometers away, there was a young lady dressed in black on top of a mountain, with tears all over her beautiful face. The lady in black lit up 3 sticks of incense and poked it into the ground. Taking a bow, she mumbled, "Brother Tian, have a good trip." 1. On the 9th day of the 9th lunar month, there is a festival called the Double Ninth Festival or Chongyang Festival. Chapter 3. Yellow Springs Road. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Yellow Springs Road Translator. David T. Editor. Ling Tian was filled with the thrill from revenge. The moment he saw the hopeless expressions on Ling Shuai, Ling Chao, Ling Han and everyone else during the explosion, he was completely overjoyed. It was just too bad that he did not have the time to enjoy the sweet feeling of revenge. Following the heaven-shaking explosion, Ling Tian felt his body turn light as he saw a bright road appear before him. Ling Tian was extremely puzzled as he wondered if he had really survived from such an explosion. After checking his body, he realized that he was completely uninjured and could not help but be perplexed. He involuntarily walked along the road of light. As he moved, he immediately felt that there was something different in his body. His body was actually floating as he moved forward. Ling Tian could not help but laugh bitterly. So, I did indeed die. This road must be the famous Yellow Springs Road. When I was alive, I have thought about this road for so many times and wanted to tread this path. At this moment, my wish can be said to have come true. Ling Tian thought while mocking himself. This road was different from what he had thought. To his sides and behind were all dark, except for the direction he was heading, which was shining with a dim light. The road seemed to be extremely stable and he could not tell what was beneath it. Was it made of rock or mud? Ling Tian could not help but be curious. Ling Tian tried to move backward but his body just wouldn't move. Then, he tried to walk to the side but was unable to do so either. It was as though there was an invisible barrier present preventing him from doing so. It seemed that one could only walk forward on this road, it was impossible to walk sideways or backwards. As Ling Tian floated forward, he felt an unexplainable carefreeness in his heart despite his death. Ha ha ha, Yellow Springs Road and Grandmother Meng's soup, Ling Tian, have been looking forward to it. The faster I drink Grandmother Meng's soup, the faster I can forget all of the memories from my past life. Ling Tian prayed in his heart. Ling Tian suddenly realized that he was not alone on this road. After observing carefully, he realized that there was a continuous stream of people with bitter faces behind him. As they walked, they began to complain and purposefully moved slowly. Every few steps they took a look back as though they had some regrets in their lives. Ling Tian could not help giggling secretly, thinking, it seems that I am the only one who is able to walk on this road happily. Thinking about this, Ling Tian could not help but have a sense of pride in his heart as he laughed with delight. The moment he began to laugh, Ling Tian became the center of everyone's focus. There is actually someone who is so happy to be dead. Those who were trying to slow down their footsteps instinctively gazed at him. Damn it, so it is that sicko. This daddy here will beat you to death. A spirit dashed forward angrily as he grabbed Ling Tian. Just when Ling Tian wanted to avoid him, he realized that the right hand of the spirit actually passed through his body. Ling Tian could not help but laugh to himself. So, I can't get injured as a spirit. Seeing that he was unable to catch Ling Tian, the spirit didn't bother wasting his effort and only scolded, this daddy here does not have any enmity with you. It doesn't matter if you want to seek revenge with the Ling family. Why do you have to drag me down? The moment this person made a move, more and more people found Ling Tian and soon, a crowd of more than 10 spirits began to flock around him, attacking him with obscenities. As Ling Tian thought about it for a moment, he immediately understood that these people must have been guests at the wedding who never imagined that they would die even before getting to enjoy the wedding banquet. Ling Tian did not have a shred of guilt at all. Having been a part of the Ling family before, he was educated about how society was a man-eat-man world. He was no longer concerned about things like life and death. He was completely unconcerned about the death of an ordinary person. It was merely the survival of the fittest. Everyone had the chance to be an unparalleled expert, it was all a matter of how much effort one put in. If you were not hardworking and threw away your life, who do you have to blame? The heavens gave all humans an equal chance. If you were not hardworking and became a cannon fodder, then don't complain. Seeing the faces of all these angry people, Ling Tian suddenly thought about Ling Xuer and gang and wondered if they were all on this road as well. The moment Ling Tian thought about that, he automatically stopped by the side of the road to wait for them. He wanted to see the expressions on those heartless individuals who could harm their own family. A short while later, there was another large batch of people who emerged from the darkness. These people walked even more slowly and were cursing incessantly. The one who was walking right at the front was that old man, Ling Jing. Behind him was Ling Chao, Ling Han and Ling Hu. Ha ha ha, not a single one of them is missing. Seeing the agitated looks on their faces, Ling Tian was completely overjoyed. Ling Jing and all present were completely down, not realizing that the very person who caused their deaths was right beside them, and continued cursing as they walked. Ling Tian could not help but laugh to himself. Just when he wanted to continue walking behind them, he saw a lonely and beautiful white figure appear in front of him. She was still dressed in a white wedding gown. She was Ling Xuer. Ling Tian walked forward with a smile and said, "Little sister Xuer, just like the saying, we will definitely have a chance to meet again, we meet again." Looking at Ling Xuer, Ling Tian did not see the expected resentment in her. She only smiled at him and passed by him. Extremely puzzled, Ling Tian asked, "You don't hate me? Don't you blame me for destroying you during the most blissful time of your life?" Ling Xuer then stopped and faced him calmly. Then, she said with a sneer, "Most blissful time of my life. Ha ha ha, Ling Tian, what a joke. Do you know? Not only do I not hate you, but also, in fact, I am extremely grateful for you." Ling Tian rubbed his head and frowned, "I don't understand what you mean." A mesmerizing smile appeared on Ling Xuer's face as she said, "Brother Tian, do you know? After framing you back then, I had a whole year of nightmares. I dreamt that you were right in front of me regardless whether I was awake or not. Do you know? I was almost tortured by you till I went crazy. I secretly ran out to see you a few times but just did not have the guts to appear in front of you. I was afraid of the look of disdain on your face. Now, I am extremely relaxed. I have returned to you everything I owed you and I do not have to have nightmares anymore. Such a feeling is really great." As she said that, a relaxed smile appeared on her face. Ling Tian was stunned for a moment and only replied after a while, "So, you also know how to feel guilty." Ling Xuer replied with contentment, "You don't have to be so sarcastic. Now, we are all the same. Despite repaying that debt, I still owe you right now. Ha ha ha." Ling Xuer then continued with a smile, "Do you know how unwilling I was and how annoyed I felt towards that marriage? Do you know how much I hate that Huang Jiayan? Now, I am finally free of all these things. I am really happy, really happy." Ling Tian revealed a thoughtful look and asked, "If you were unwilling and disliked him, why did you agree to marry him?" As though Ling Xuer was surprised that Ling Tian would ask that, she looked at him with questioning eyes as she complained, "Why? For my family. For the ambitions of the family. Being a daughter in the family, my destiny was predestined, I would definitely have to sacrifice myself for the family. I do not have the courage to betray the family." She continued with a mischievous smile, "Thankfully, you blew all my troubles away with a bomb. If I were to have a second life, I would rather stay in the mountains and be a humble hunter's daughter. I would definitely not want to be born in such a family again." Ling Tian became quiet as the both of them stood opposite each other in silence. After a moment, Ling Xuer lifted her head up and said, "Brother Tian, thank you. If we have a second life and are born in the same family, I would definitely be your most caring sister. I'll leave first." She then turned and walked away. After a few steps, she suddenly stopped and said softly to Ling Tian with her back facing him, "Brother Tian, I'm sorry." Ling Tian immediately lifted up his head but realized that Ling Xuer could no longer be seen. From afar, the crowd was still flowing continuously, but Ling Tian only stood there with heartache. Perhaps, if he were to see things from Ling Xuer's perspective, although the methods used to frame him might have been a little despicable, how could a direct descendant like her let authority and power fall into the hands of one from the side branch? The moment they lose authority, they would definitely suffer oppression from the whole family. Such a result was something which the proud direct descendants would not be able to endure for sure. In that instant, the bone-piercing hatred which Ling Tian felt towards Ling Xuer disappeared. This lady suffered a bad name throughout half her lifetime for the sake of her family. For her family, she sacrificed the most precious marriage. However, the only thing he gave her was a heaven-shaking explosion. At that moment, the hatred in his heart turned into tenderness. Younger sister Xuer, if we have a next life, I hope that you will be born in an ordinary family. Enjoy a freedom to love, freedom to marry, freedom to enjoy the free life. Facing the direction which Xuer had gone in, Ling Tian sent out his blessings. For the first time, Ling Tian began to question if his decision to take revenge was right or wrong. He could not help but think about Ling Xuer's final words, "Brother Tian, thank you. If we have a second life and are born in the same family, I would definitely be your most caring sister." Ling Tian felt bitterness in his heart as he said to himself, "Xuer, if we have a second life and are born in the same family, I will definitely be a good brother and protect you from all grievances." The next life. Ling Tian suddenly remembered these words. Since there is really a Yellow Springs Road and a Bridge of Helplessness, too, then there must be a next life. Thinking about this, Ling Tian became agitated as he ran towards the direction which Ling Xuer headed and shouted, "Xuer, wait for me, let us go together. In the next life, I will still be your brother." The moment Ling Tian sprinted, he was faster than all of the floating spirits. In the blink of an eye, he had already sprinted a long way but just could not find Ling Xuer. At that moment, he could not help but be disappointed and frustrated. Ahead was a white arch bridge with a misty light, which was surely the Bridge of Helplessness. By the side of the bridge, there was a large rock pavilion with the people on it staring at it with sorrow. That was certainly the home viewing pavilion. 3. Ling Tian was anxious as he knew that once he walked past the Bridge of Helplessness, he had to drink Grandmother Meng's soup for sure. He wanted to find where Ling Xuer was. However, he was completely unable to take a step back. What Ling Tian did not know was that when he sprinted forward while shouting, there was a tender figure by the side of the road weeping, and she was Ling Xuer. Seeing Ling Tian shout out as he passed her, Ling Xuer was extremely moved. She wanted to cry out to him, but was unable to say anything because of her tears of joy. She was completely elated, thinking, "Brother Tian has forgiven me. Brother Tian has forgiven me." Excitement bubbling in her, she could not help but burst out into tears. Never did she expect that the knot in her heart which had been there for so many years would come undone in this cold and heartless Yellow Springs Road after she died. Ling Tian vaguely heard the sounds of weeping from behind him and recognized that it was Ling Xuer's voice. Filled with joy, he turned behind and wanted to walk back with all his might. But he remained rooted to the ground. Anxious, he thought about the electric drill in the world. "Since I am already without a form, I may be able to pass if I were to spin like an electric drill." The moment he thought about it, he raised his hands to the skies and began spinning on the spot. The moment Ling Tian felt that he was able to generate winds by spinning, he spun towards the direction he came from without restraint. All of the spirits around him began to lose their balance from his actions and cursed him. All of a sudden, all of the spirits around him suddenly disappeared because of a crazy brat who had suddenly started spinning in the middle of the road. It was as if their spirits were completely destroyed. All of the spirits could not help but sigh. There were weird things every year, but not as many as this year. It didn't matter if he was a maniac when he was alive. At least, there was a chance for them to reincarnate after death. But now, this brother here actually went crazy on Yellow Springs Road. It actually resulted in other spirits to be completely destroyed. Who knows what wrong they did in their past lives? As Ling Tian continued to spin, he slowly advanced forward as he thought to himself, this method is useful indeed. Just when he was extremely satisfied and advanced a few steps, he saw a white figure in front of him which looked like Ling Shuer, approaching him with open arms. With joy, Ling Tian began spinning even faster. Feeling as though he had broken something, he suddenly felt extremely relaxed. His surroundings no longer had that sluggish feeling and he almost stumbled. He could not be bothered with anything as he stood up after staggering for a moment. Just when he wanted to say hi to Ling Shuer, Ling Tian was completely dumbfounded as he opened his eyes. My goodness. Where is this darn place? 1. It is a traditional Chinese belief that one will drink grandmother Meng's soup when they are in hell to forget things from the past life before entering reincarnation. 2. The Bridge of Helplessness is a bridge where the spirits of the dead must pass on Yellow Springs Road to reach grandmother Meng before entering reincarnation. 3. The Home Viewing Pavilion is a pavilion where the souls can see their loved ones in the living world. This is also where grandmother Meng is located at. Chapter 4. Training in the Womb. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Training in the Womb. Translator David T. Editor. Ling Tian immediately became depressed. Out of a moment of excitement, he became a spinning top and spun himself into a godforsaken place. Everywhere around him was filled with a gel-like substance and he became as small as a gourd. Furthermore, his body was being hung up. Such an appearance was just like the preborn bottle gourd babies, which he saw in his previous life in animation. The worst part was that his body was completely smooth without any limbs. Don't tell me I infringed the heavenly laws. K, didn't I merely test a human spinning top on Yellow Springs Road? Is there really a need to hang me up like that to punish me? Ling Tian almost cursed out of frustration. Wait, just what is going on? I can vaguely hear someone talking, let me listen carefully. Husband, our child is moving. Following which, there was a vague male's voice, let me hear. Husband. Just what is going on? Ling Tian was completely dumbfounded. Don't tell me I've reincarnated so quickly. But why is it, husband? Even if I reincarnate, I should be hearing, hubby. Don't tell me, not only did I reincarnate, but I've also traveled to a different world. 2. K. Such absurd things which only happens in web novels really happen to me. Ling Tian was completely confused. After checking his whole body carefully, it was indeed the general shape of a human being. The shape was just like the fetus which he studied during high school. Why did this happen? I haven't even passed the bridge of helplessness. I haven't even tried grandmother Meng's soup. I still wanted to sing a song on the home viewing pavilion. Why am I being sent away in such a hurry? Ling Tian cried out. But just when he opened his mouth, a glue-like substance entered. At the same time, the rope which was tied to his body delivered an endless stream of pure Xiantian qi. Ling Tian sensed the surroundings around him. There aren't any other living organisms around. It seems that I don't have a twin. So I should be the only child. Ling Tian thought to himself. After a series of checks, Ling Tian finally confirmed that he had indeed reincarnated. Although he was not sure how he had passed through into a different world, he was sure that he was currently in the womb of a noble pregnant lady. Praise to the goddess. This world is really too amazing. It seems that they are also speaking Chinese outside, that's convenient. At least I still seem to be on Earth, Ling Tian thought. From his own experience, from what he could see, it seemed like he was only 3 to 4 months old. In other words, it would take another 5 to 6 months before he was born. As he thought about how he had to spend the next 5 to 6 months in this dark place, Ling Tian could not help but go crazy. I have already been lonely for my past life and now I have to continue living alone. Just where is justice? Since things are so, I can only accept it, Ling Tian thought to himself. At this moment, Ling Tian suddenly thought about the greatest regret of his past life. After being framed, a single palm to my inner core had destroyed all of my pride and hope. I actually had the chance to convert all of my inner chi from Hotian to Xiantian, but I... 3. Wait, what did I just think of? Ling Tian's eyes lit up. Framing, crippled, Hotian. Ha ha ha, Xiantian chi. Isn't this rope that is attached to me sending me the Xiantian chi which I dreamt of? Such a golden opportunity and a godsend gift, how can I miss it? Wahahaha, the heavens gave me a younger sister Lin, a naked younger sister Lin. 4. Ling Tian became completely excited to the point where he almost danced in joy. Thinking about this, Ling Tian immediately felt that his life would not be so boring anymore. At least he would still be able to cultivate his inner chi. Ling Tian first concentrated his attention on the divine shocking dragon formula, which was the treasured cultivation method of the Ling family. He recalled the mnemonic and channel roots in detail and ran it through his head. Ling Tian knew that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for him and he would not allow any mistakes. Reincarnating with the memories of his past life was something extremely amazing. It was just like a billionaire who realized that he reincarnated with all of his money. Oh my God, his starting point was already having Xiantian Qi, while some martial cultivators will never be able to achieve such a feat. He had such a chance even before he was in a complete human form. If he did not make good use of this chance, it would be a complete waste of the blessings of his ancestors and God. Up until now, Ling Tian still couldn't understand why he suddenly reincarnated. However, it was probably related to the moment he became a human spinning top. But all of these were no longer his concerns anymore. The only thing which Ling Tian was concerned with was the weak meridians in his body. Ling Tian was extremely clear that he was no more than a ball of meat then, at the most, he was a ball of meat with sentience. His predicament was extremely dangerous. After all, if his mother were to fall, it was extremely likely that he would be reduced to a pile of blood and be expelled from her body like she is having menstruation. Thus, Ling Tian's priority was to strengthen his body. He had to make sure that he would be unaffected by any medicine and impacts. Even if he was going to go through many tribulations, he definitely needed to hold on till his birth. In order to strengthen his body, he had to use the Xiantian Qi from his mother's body and the inner Qi cultivation method from his previous life. But the problem was that Ling Tian's meridians were extremely narrow and frail at that moment. He did not know if infants were always that weak, but he felt like he was a complete weakling. Since he planned to do so, he decided he wouldn't hold anything back. Ling Tian then carefully circulated the Xiantian Qi around the meridians of his body like he was carving on tofu. As though a century had passed, Ling Tian finally completed the first full cycle in his meridians with the Xiantian Qi. All of a sudden, he became extremely fatigued as though he had just crossed a tightrope on a 10,000 feet high cliff holding an extremely fragile jade stone. It's too tortuous. As Ling Tian woke up, that was the first thing he wanted to curse. After a full cycle, Ling Tian felt that his meridians were wider and stronger than before and became more confident. Despite his complaints, Ling Tian was extremely clear that the most difficult segment of circulating his inner qi was the first full cycle. Not only did he have to pay close attention to ensure that he did not take a wrong route, he had to carefully control the right amount of qi flowing through his meridians to slowly widen them. Then, he could unblock his meridians with the widened channels and finally allow the inner qi to flow as per the depicted route. As long as any segments went wrong, he would be dead for sure. At times, Ling Tian thought to himself, if I enter cultivation deviation in my mother's womb. As he thought about that, he immediately stopped himself. No, that's inauspicious. Ever since he had a talk with Ling Xuer on Yellow Springs Road, Ling Tian realized that he had a large change in character. Perhaps it was because the knot in his heart had finally been undone. As such, he was no longer as extreme in his ways as he was in his past life, and he also had a more cheerful disposition. Ling Tian didn't reckon that Ling Xuer had lied to him at such a time, since people normally spoke from the bottom of their hearts upon approaching death. Furthermore, not only were the both of them about to die, they were already dead and walking along Yellow Springs Road. There was simply no reason for Ling Xuer to lie to him. No matter what, I have already reincarnated. All of those things which happened in the past no longer has anything to do with me. From now on, I must try my best to adapt to my new status. I will definitely work hard in this world to make sure that I have my dreams, character, money, power, martial arts, and a beautiful lady. He then took in a deep breath. Oh, no, he choked on the amniotic fluid in his mother's womb again. Then, Ling Tian began to use the Xiantian Qi to strengthen his meridians again. He had to try his best to make sure that he was invincible from birth. Ling Tian began to fantasize again. It seems like there is really such a formidable person in my memory. He seems to be the one from Investiture of the Gods. The moment Ling Tian thought about that, he was shocked. Goodness! Don't tell me that I am that super deity. But I do not have that metal ring or 7-colored belt, isn't it said that I would be born with it? 5. Time passed unknowingly. Ling Tian did not know how long he had already spent in his mother's womb. Every day he only cultivated and slept. Ling Tian only knew that after he was born, he would no longer have such a pure Xiantian Qi to absorb anymore. Thus, Ling Tian treasured his time a lot. Apart from the time spent sleeping, he spent all of his free time cultivating. The only thing he could feel was his limbs growing out, and he slowly grew fatter. With the continuous refinement of his body, his hands and legs gained strength. Occasionally, when he kicked lightly, he was able to hear a drumming sound and the gentle scolding of a lady. The effects of the pure Xiantian Qi were also revealed slowly. In the little body of Ling Tian, all of his meridians had already been opened up and he had a strong inner Qi foundation laid. Occasionally, he touched his own forehead and realized that it was already becoming hard. Ling Tian knew that he would not stay in his mother's womb for long. In just a while, he might officially be born. Right at that moment, Ling Tian suddenly thought of a serious problem. I have been training like mad in my mother's womb. My body is healthy with all my meridians strengthened. But I am still a little too big. From what I know, I am probably around 8 or 9 caddies heavy. How would I be able to go out? Furthermore, my skull is much stronger than that of an ordinary infant. What if I can't go out? Damn it. How did things turn out like that? Ling Tian just wanted to cry. Just when he was at a loss, he suddenly had an idea. I seem to have found a martial arts manual that is able to shrink my bones when viewing the Ling family's martial arts collection previously. The heavens do indeed provide a way. Ling Tian was filled with tears of excitement. Without delay, Ling Tian began to search for the bone-shrinking martial arts from his memories and spent his sleeping time on training. This concerned his life, how could he not be anxious? Now, Ling Tian only had a single thought. It is still best to be from the side branch. Only the direct descendants had the right to enter the martial hall to view the martial arts manual anytime they wanted. For someone like Ling Tian who belonged to the side branch, he only had a single day per month to enter the martial hall. Thus, Ling Tian first memorized any martial arts or cultivation method which he was interested in the moment he had a chance to enter. He would then only study it after he returned to his own courtyard. As time went on, he also had this habit and memorized many different martial arts and cultivation methods. Now, it was finally the time to use it. Ling Tian asked himself, if he had been a direct descendant back then who had free access to the martial hall, would he have still spent that much effort to memorize all of the martial arts manuals? Of course he wouldn't. For the first time in his life, Ling Tian was thankful that he was born in the side branch. Thank goodness. At least the tragedy of both mother and child dying has been avoided. 1. This is a reference to an old Chinese cartoon. 2. The way wives addressed their husbands in the olden days was more formal as compared to how they do so now. 3. Xiantian refers to the natural qi. After one is born, they would be stained with the Ho-Tian, post-natal, qi in everyday life. The first step to cultivation would be for them to convert all of this Ho-Tian qi into Xiantian qi. 4. This is reference to an old Chinese opera, titled, A Younger Sister Ling Fell from the Sky. 5. This is a reference to a classic Chinese novel, Investiture of the Gods. Chapter 5. Complications. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Complications. Translator David T. Editor. Cell. After a series of hard work, Ling Tian finally made some progress with the divine bone shrinking art. As such, Ling Tian had one less thing to worry about. Estimating that it was about time, Ling Tian got more excited. Every day, he rested his ears against his mother's stomach in order to listen to the sounds from outside. Every time he heard his mother's voice, he inevitably felt a sense of closeness to her. Perhaps these are the blood ties between mother and child, Ling Tian thought. Out of boredom, Ling Tian placed his ears upon his mother's stomach again today and heard chatters from the outside. He heard a frail voice, "Madam, you don't have to worry. This subordinate has a prescription for you here. As long as Madam drinks it, both you and your child would definitely be safe and the child will be born smoothly." Ling Tian immediately thought to himself, "Madam. Subordinate. It seems that this life which I've been reincarnated to isn't too bad and has a certain status. At least I will not suffer too much after I'm born." Ling Tian was overjoyed. As he heard the frail voice mention the medicine, Ling Tian immediately realized that the medicine would most likely expedite his birth. If not, why would he have said, "You and your child would definitely be safe and the child will be born smoothly"? If Ling Tian was outside, he would definitely have shouted out loud, "It isn't good to use medicine to expedite birth. It's best to just let nature take its course." He suddenly felt a tremor. His mother must have received the packet of medicine. Following which, he heard a gentle voice, "Thank you, Sir Su. Men, serve Sir Su some tea. Madam is too polite. If there is nothing else, this subordinate will take his leave." The frail old voice sounded. "Sir Su, have a good trip. Men, send Sir Su out." The voice trailed off. Ling Tian sighed. It seems that she will definitely take this medicine for sure. After a few hours, Ling Tian, who was in meditation, felt a weird medicinal energy flowing into his body through the umbilical cord. In that instant, he felt that something was wrong. His whole body began to feel weird. Ling Tian was immediately shocked. "Goodness, don't tell me it's poison." As he circulated his qi, Ling Tian carefully inspected the medicine and almost cursed, "This is no medicine to expedite birth. It is no fetus-protecting medicine. Its only use seems to be to stimulate the fetus to move around more in the womb. Ordinary infants would definitely not be able to endure the effects of this medicine and move around vigorously. It doesn't matter if they are born already or not, in the womb, there is an umbilical cord attached. If he were to have any vigorous movements in the womb, he would definitely get tangled up with the umbilical cord. If that's the case, the process of childbirth will definitely be extremely complicated. The tragic loss of both lives definitely can't be avoided then. This medical officer with surname Su definitely does not have good intentions." Ling Tian made sure to commit this voice to memory. "Thankfully, the child in my mother's womb is me, this young master. If not, I would definitely end up becoming a ghost without even knowing why. This would even affect my mother's life. This is something unacceptable. He neutralized the poison in this body calmly as he became suspicious. It is impossible for this doctor to harm my mother for no rhyme or reason. Besides, unless he doesn't want to live anymore, a professional medical officer should not have any conflict with my mother who belongs to a noble family. But from his voice, he did not sound too young. After struggling to stay alive for so many years, it doesn't seem like he would commit suicide. From the above few reasons, the only thing that was certain was that doctor with the surname Su definitely had a mastermind behind him. For the first time, Ling Tian felt that being born into this family, his life wasn't going to be so simple. Since there was an enemy who wanted to kill this unborn infant, it was clear just how vicious he was. Ling Tian was worried. Just what kind of living conditions would he face in future? In Ling Tian's memories, all doctors with the title of medical officer were definitely imperial doctors serving the royal family in the olden days. If his guess was right, the family which he belonged to was definitely not a simple one. That could be deduced from the way the medical officer with surname Su was so respectful. As an imperial doctor serving the royal family, his status was above over 99% of the people in the world. But he was still so respectful to Ling Tian's mother. It could be seen just how large his family was. In this world, his family was definitely one able to affect the balance of power in the country. This also meant that his mother and father's status in the family was not low at all. It was extremely likely that they were the bloodline of the ruling party in the family. Because the enemy in hiding would actually use the imperial doctors to deal with this unborn infant. Ling Tian was certain that the real motive of his enemy, who instructed the imperial doctor to poison him, would be to kill him before he was born. But just why would they deal with a harmless infant like me? Don't tell me my very existence threatens them. As Ling Tian deliberated over it, he concluded that there was only a single explanation for his hidden enemy to deal with him. Since his very existence threatened their interests, just who could an infant like him possibly threaten? The biggest threat he posed seemed only to be inheriting his family in future. However, if he were to continue along this line of thought, Ling Tian helplessly realized that the direction he was headed was wrong from the beginning. If he were to think along the lines of him being the next family successor, then the person who wanted to harm him was definitely within his family. But how is it possible for someone within my family to command an imperial doctor? Don't tell me my family is so large to such a frightening extent. Then, Ling Tian began to think in the direction of the royal family. But the more he tried to think about it, the more he was confused. As he thought about it, Ling Tian almost felt like his brain was exploding and could not help but curse. This young master hasn't been born yet and you are giving me so much troubles already. Once I'm born, won't I be frustrated to death every day? No matter how he thought about it, he just could not figure it out. Thus, he gave up and fully focused on absorbing the Xiantian Qi. This Xiantian Qi was not the pure Xiantian Qi which martial arts cultivators wanted. The difference between pure Xiantian Qi and Xiantian Qi is extremely huge. Only after absorbing Xiantian Qi into the body with a superior cultivation method and circulating it around the body a few times will there be a possibility of it being transformed into pure Xiantian Qi. However, not everyone who absorbs Xiantian Qi would be able to refine pure Xiantian Qi. Besides the fact that Xiantian Qi is extremely scarce, the Xiantian Qi in the atmosphere has many impurities within it, making it extremely difficult to deal with them individually. Furthermore, one would have to block the Ho-Tian breath in order to refine pure Xiantian Qi. Just this point alone would become the biggest barrier differentiating a martial artist from a Xiantian expert. But Ling Tian was not concerned about those two problems at all. First, being an infant, the Xiantian Qi which he was absorbing was completely pure. Even if he wanted to absorb something else, it was impossible. Second, Ling Tian, who was in his mother's body, did not have a Ho-Tian's breath at all. Thus, there was no need to block it at all. If those were the only two reasons, then it wouldn't be much. However, Ling Tian was an anomaly who was reincarnated with the memories of his past life. In those memories, there were cultivation methods and experiences of pure Xiantian qi. With all of these encounters, Ling Tian became a weirdo who should not be born at all. He was actually able to achieve a pure Xiantian qi foundation in his mother's womb. With such a foundation, it was impossible for Ling Tian to be an ordinary person even if he wanted to. His life was destined for a bright and colorful path. It seemed as though the heavens planned to compensate all of his losses from the previous life in his current life. He couldn't be ordinary even if he wanted to. After some time, Ling Tian, who was circulating pure Xiantian qi in his body, suddenly felt a tremor as all the sticky amniotic fluid surrounding him was slowly disappearing. At the same time, he could vaguely hear the hurried footsteps of those outside. Ling Tian knew that the time for him to be born had finally arrived. Thinking about this, Ling Tian flipped his body around according to the experience from his past life, with his head facing down. At the same time, he used all of his strength to circulate the divine bone, shrinking art to shrink his head and make it skinnier. Chapter 6. Finally born. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Finally born. Translator David T. Editor. Ling Tian felt as though he had almost expended all of his energy and almost passed out from exhaustion, while his mother was also letting out cries of pain. Finally, as mother and child worked together, Ling Tian finally heard an excited cry, "It's out, the child is out. Goodness, he's huge." Following which, Ling Tian relaxed as he thought, "Goodness, I am finally born. I am really, so tired." Then, he lost consciousness and fell asleep. In the delivery room, the midwife wiped her face full of sweat and looked at the infant which was just born. Then, she took a cold breath as she thought to herself, "Goodness gracious me, this child is huge. So heavy. I'm afraid he is at least 10 caddies heavy." She then looked towards the young unconscious mother lying on the bed with a sense of lingering fear. Looking at that slender body and beautiful face, she couldn't help but pray, such a large child and such a delicate mother. Both mother and child could actually be born safely. It is really the blessings of the heavens. Amitabha. The news of the safe labor disseminated quickly as the worried men in the living room rushed in without waiting for another second. The first one was a 1.9 meters tall man with a square face and sharp eyebrows. From the way he looked, he should definitely be a person with great authority. Now, that face which was supposed to be filled with an imposing aura was filled with anxiousness, worry and tenderness. The moment he entered the delivery room, she rushed to the side of the young mother and asked with concern, "Tingner, are you all right?" Ling Tian, who was wrapped up in swaddling clothes, had already woken up and taken in his first breath of fresh air. Then, he suddenly felt his nose itch and involuntarily let out a large sneeze. The next moment, he heard someone laughingly scold him, "This little fellow, there isn't anything wrong when someone else carries him. But when I carry him, he actually sprayed me a face full of mucus." Ha! There was no anger in the voice but only delight, pride, and more importantly, satisfaction and gratitude. It was as though it was a great pride and honor for him to be sprayed a face full of mucus and saliva by his own grandson. As Ling Tian heard this voice, it was enough for him to draw an impression of this old man who had a face full of mucus but was filled with smiles. Furthermore, Ling Tian could be sure that it was definitely accurate. As he gradually opened his eyes, he saw an old face with wrinkles by the corners of the eyes, a head full of white hair and a wide smile, with the corner of his lips almost touching his ears. This was no different to the person in his impression, laughing like an idiot. Ling Tian could not help but despise him in his heart as he revealed a smile. "Wahahaha! Look, he is smiling. My grandson is smiling. Ha ha ha. He is indeed my grandson, smiling the moment he sees his grandfather. Waha!" The old man laughed until his saliva began to spit all over, with most of it landing on Ling Tian's face. Ling Tian was completely speechless as he thought, "Just laugh if you want, but is there a need to give me free rein?" Ling Tian almost burst out laughing as he thought to himself, I did not laugh out of joy when I saw you. It's just that your smile was exactly as I imagined, and that's just too vulgar. So this is my grandfather in this world. Darn old man, you're going crazy again. What if you scare my grandson with your loud voice? Aya, look at your thick and clumsy hands, how will you be able to hold the child? Come, give him to me, give him to me. Good grandson, let granny hug you. Ha ha ha, look at how handsome he is. These small eyes and nose are exactly the same as his father's. By the side, a kind-looking old lady snatched Ling Tian over and hugged him like a treasured darling. Really? Aunt, why does this child have so many wrinkles on his face? He looks like a small old man. I can't tell where he resembles elder brother. An extremely annoying voice could be heard. But before that person finished talking, there was a loud commotion followed by a shriek of pain. The old lady then scolded, move off to one side, little brat. Can't you say something nice, fourth brother is right. Yeah, aunt, take a look, why is this child's head so skinny and long? It looks so ugly. A young lady whined. Hayes, what do you know? Take a look at his nose, eyebrows, and eyes. All of these are plucked right off your eldest brother's face. Old man, do you agree? Ling Tian immediately felt that his grandmother was just being unreasonable. He was just born and had used the divine bone, shrinking art to make his face long and skinny. If she was really able to spot his resemblance to his father, she was definitely seeing things. That's right. This child looks exactly like his father, Ling Xiao. With one look, it can be seen that we are grandson and grandfather. Without even looking at him carefully, I can be sure that he is the child of my Ling family. Wahahaha. Following which, his grandmother let out a whistle as she carried him and cradled him with a tempo. Admiration. These two old people were just too amazing. They were actually able to spot so many similarities before the child's facial features were even developed properly. They are just too admirable. Following which, a flurry of heads appeared in Ling Tian's vision, with an expression as though they were all looking at a rare treasure. Young master is so handsome. Just someone spouting nonsense. Yes, look at his eyes, they look so energetic. Another one again. Look at his small arms, they have so much strength. He will definitely be a general when he grows up. Another one trying to bootlick. No, look at his eyes, they are filled with wisdom. Young master will definitely be a genius when he grows up. He will definitely be a prime minister at least. This person is even more amazing, I am still closing my eyes and she can tell that my eyes are filled with wisdom. A large commotion formed and Ling Tian almost fainted from the noise which his many aunties had created. Just when he wanted to fake a cry, he suddenly felt that something was amiss as though a dangerous aura was approaching him. As he felt that, he immediately opened his eyes. In front of him was a 27-year-old teen with a face full of smiles. As he looked at Ling Tian's eyes, words of praise flowed out from his mouth as though it all came from his heart. Be it the tone of his voice or his animated expressions, they all seemed so natural and full of sincere blessings. Ling Tian could not help but sigh with pity. If this person were to be born in my previous world with his acting skills, he would definitely win the Oscars award. This person is just too good at acting. No one was able to discover the real emotions which he had hidden in his heart. But when he lowered his head to look at Ling Tian, the hatred to this newborn was completely without concealment. From Ling Tian's perspective, he was able to clearly see a chilly gaze in the other party's eyes. That was obviously a large killing intent being born out of dejection. This person is dangerous. Ling Tian immediately felt alarmed. After this young man said a few words, he left Ling Tian and continued to socialize with the others in the room. Occasionally, he cracked a joke and was actually able to adjust the atmosphere in the room to one of harmony in a short period of time. It seems that this person has good relations within the family. Furthermore, he also has a certain degree of intimacy and power. Ling Tian had already made sure to engrave that person's appearance into his memories. He was definitely the first one Ling Tian would have to get rid of. Leaving someone like that by his side was definitely too dangerous for him and his family. Ling Tian snickered, "Little thing, you actually dare to reveal your killing intent in front of me. This young master will definitely toy with you to death when I grow up. Perhaps ordinary infants will not be able to detect your killing intent. But this young master is different. This young master spent a full 25 years hiding like how you did. Playing schemes in front of this young master is nothing more than just trying to display your skills in front of an expert." A maid then walked up and said, reporting to old madam, "Young madam is awake and wants to look at the child." Okay. Haha, this old lady will carry my beloved grandson over. Hayes, it has been hard on this lass. Such a fat little boy, I wonder how that frail body of hers managed to deal with it. Is the nourishment soup in the kitchen ready yet? Let them hurry up and send it over for Tinger to replenish her body. The old lady said with concern. A short while later, Ling Tian felt a warm embrace. In the hug, he felt a sense of closeness and familiarity. The moment he was in this person's embrace, Ling Tian felt an unspeakable sense of happiness and reliance. It was as though no storm would be able to touch him as long as he was in this embrace. Be no calm. Ling Tian knew that this embrace could only belong to a single person. His mother. Ling Tian entered this world from the Yellow Springs Road without reason and brought the memories from his previous life. He even thought that he would feel extremely awkward facing his mother as a 25-year-old soul in the body of an infant. But when Ling Tian opened his eyes and saw the gentle smile and her uncontained love and pamper, Ling Tian could not help but feel a sense of closeness to her. In that instant, it was as though his mind returned to his previous life where he enjoyed the joyful youth with his mother. In that instant, Ling Tian felt his heart ache as tears filled his eyes uncontrollably. The lady in front of him still had a face full of fatigue and hair filled with sweat. But in Ling Tian's eyes, it was all so beautiful and gratitude filled his heart. In that instant, Ling Tian decided that he will never let this lady suffer from any heartbreak. Regardless of whom, they must never harm this lady. Because she was the mother of Ling Tian. "Baby, don't cry, mother is here. Don't be afraid, mother will protect you." Ling Tian's mother gently cradled him and a strange sense of peace rose in Ling Tian's heart. A wave of fatigue then swept over and Ling Tian gave a loud yawn, comfortably closing his eyes and falling asleep. No matter if it was in this life or his previous one, in a total of 26 years, this was the first time Ling Tian was able to sleep without any worries and problems. Chapter 7. Powerful Family. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Powerful Family. Translator David T. Editor. Cell in Duke Ling's mansion, there was a new son, a new fat grandson. General Ling finally had his first son. Both mother and son were safe, with the weight of the newborn child reaching a whole 9 caddies and 2 tails. This matter spread like a tsunami, alerting all of the upper echelons within the sky-bearing empire. Apart from the high status of Duke Ling and General Ling, the Ling family was one of the 6 biggest aristocratic families which held the most authority in the world. Duke Ling, Ling Zhan, was the family head of this large family. Be it in terms of wealth or manpower, the Ling family was positioned well at a frightening level. The next instant, the gates of the Ling family were filled with a long queue of people, an endless crowd bustling to give their blessings to the Ling family. Not to mention the Yang family who was in the same empire, even the other 4 families from the other 2 continents had sent people over to congratulate the Ling family. Even the Emperor of the Sky-bearing Empire paid a personal visit to the Ling family before the first full month of young Master Ling. In the Sky-bearing Empire, almost everyone knew that Duke Ling and the late emperor were sworn brothers who were life and death comrades. Of the large territorial lands of the sky-bearing empire, at least half of them were captured by Duke Ling. No one in the empire was able to match his large contributions to the empire. As for General Ling Xiao, he was one of the pillars within the empire's army today. At least a third of all the troops were within the control of General Ling. The amount of authority he held was comparable to even the Prime Minister, Yang Kongkun of the Yang family. Apart from these, General Ling and the present emperor were like brothers and grew up together since young. Furthermore, the only sister of General Ling was Consort Ling, who had a status only lower than the empress in the imperial palace. Who would dare to look down on such a family? Before Ling Tian was even a month old, 2 warehouses which the Ling family built beforehand to store the various congratulatory gifts were completely full. Furthermore, the guest rooms in the Ling family were completely full during this period. The bright laughter of Duke Ling would sound ever so often, and General Ling, who was gloomy over having no descendant, had completely brightened up. As for the charitable old Madame Ling, she donated 10,000 taels of silver to aid the victims of disasters. All of a sudden, all of the poor families had erected a longevity tablet for old Madame Ling. After Ling Tian understood all of these matters, he was not only unhappy but also extremely worried. Just as the saying goes, anything which is at its limit would easily falter. Presently, the authority which the Ling family possessed was already at a dangerous level. It was able to threaten the authority of the imperial family already. This was definitely not a good thing. It was impossible for a family this strong to not draw the attention of the imperial family. Perhaps now the Ling family was deeply rooted within the empire and couldn't be easily provoked. Another reason was that the empire was still young, with troubles brewing internally and externally. Thus, the Ling family was still needed to subdue any chaos. As such, the authority of the Ling family would still be on the uprise for a short period of time. However, when the imperial power was firm with both internal and external troubles gone, it would also be end of the line for the Ling family. Any large empires would not be able to accept the existence of such a large power like the Ling family. Getting rid of anything once their purpose had been served had been the way history had always taken place. In comparison to authority, all friendship and brotherhood seemed dull and useless. This was politics. Ling Tian felt that he definitely had to take some precautionary measures and do something about it. His grandfather, Ling Zhan, had already passed his prime, and his father, Ling Xiao, was deadly loyal to the empire and was trapped by his friendship with the emperor. If things were to go on like this, the destruction of the Ling family would be inevitable. Now, the Ling family had its own rightful successor who was a male. This would definitely make the empire even more suspicious and wary. After all, it was far too easy for the Ling family to stage a rebellion with its authority and power. After he was certain of his family's situation, Ling Tian realized that he was born in the middle of a tsunami. It was as though he was born atop a volcano. He inevitably became the focus of all the big families. With regard to such a situation, Ling Tian could only laugh bitterly in his heart. Ling Tian understood that if he were to just be a little outstanding when he grows up, the Ling family would be in an even greater danger. Thinking about this, Ling Tian just wanted to cry out, after putting up an act for the whole of my previous life, don't tell me I would still. The only thing that Ling Tian felt happy about was that his name had finally been decided after a night of discussion among his parents and grandfather. What made Ling Tian the most surprised was that his name was the same as the one in his previous life, Ling Tian. Damn it, not only did I come here with my memories, but also with my name, Ling Tian thought to himself. Just when he was happy, he could not help but curse as well. Curse his stupid grandfather and foolish-looking father. They are just 2 political idiots. They do not have any sense of politics in them. If they were to be described with the words from my previous life, they are simply complete idiots. In his previous life, the name Ling Tian wasn't considered much. In fact, it was considered an extremely ordinary name with some grandeur. But in this world where there were still kingdoms and empires, this was a rebellious name. Ling Tian estimated that if this world was like the Qing dynasty of his previous world, just his name alone would guarantee that his whole family would be beheaded. 1. Regarding how clueless his father and grandfather were towards politics, Ling Tian was completely speechless. Ling Tian also gave the Ling family a big surprise. He refused to have any of the milk from the healthy nanny whom old Madame Ling specially found. Every time the nanny placed her at his mouth, this brat would shift his head to the side and reject it. He would rather wail from hunger and refuse to eat it. This made old Madame Ling completely worried. What a joke! The breast milk from my own mother is the best choice for me to grow up healthily. What's so nice about the milk from those ladies without any blood relations to me? They are nothing more than just cows in human form. If you want me to drink their milk, why not just let me drink the milk from cows? Of course, Ling Tian had plans in his heart when he rejected them. Out of her love for Ling Tian, Chu Tinger insisted to hug her child in her embrace. What she did not expect was that the moment Ling Tian was in the embrace of his own mother, he became extremely cooperative, drinking the milk with large gulps with a face full of happiness. Old Madame Ling was worried because her daughter-in-law's body was already slightly weak to begin with. Furthermore, Tinger had just given birth and old Madame Ling was worried that her body could not take it. She was even more afraid that Tinger could not produce enough milk, starving her grandson. Thus, she always came and took a look every now and then. However, she never expected that after a whole month, Chu Tinger was not only unaffected by taking care of the child, but also even healthier than before she was pregnant and filled with more energy. Ling Tian was secretly delighted. When he was first born, he had already realized that his mother's body was extremely weak. After going through child delivery, her body was on the verge of breaking down. Ling Tian did not want to experience the sadness of losing his mother at such a young age. Thus, he secretly used his pure Xiantian Qi to take care of his mother's meridians and repair the damages in her body while he was drinking milk. The effect was indeed extremely good. As long as Chu Tinger did not run into any accidents in future, Ling Tian was certain that she would definitely be able to live to a ripe old age. Ling Tian surprised the Ling family in another aspect. Ever since he was born, he had never once urinated on the bed. Even if he had to bear with it until his face turned red, he did not urinate on the bed. Instead, he created a commotion with his arms and legs in order to remind the adults behind him that he needed to urinate. This was simply a genius. Every time there were guests in the family, his mother and grandmother announced this fact with pride. Without fail, it drew gazes of envy and looks of shock from everyone, followed by a wave of praises. With regard to his mother and grandmother boasting about the fact that he would not urinate on the bed, Ling Tian felt extremely depressed. No matter what, I have a mental age of over 25 years old. How is it possible that I would still do something like that? If you want a 25-year-old teen to urinate on the bed, why don't you ask a carnivore to eat only vegetables? As the days passed, the Ling family found another strange thing about young Master Ling. This young master never cried or threw a tantrum. His actions were regulated to the point it was scary. When it was time to sleep, he would close his eyes obediently and fall asleep. When it was time to drink milk, he would open his mouth without a need for anyone to coax him. When he wasn't eating or sleeping, he was also extremely obedient. He would either listen to the adults talk with interest or lie by the side quietly and play on his own. Almost everyone who saw the young master said that they had never seen a child so obedient. As such, the legends of the young master of the Ling family spread widely till everyone in the sky-bearing empire knew that he was a super genius. 1. Ling Tian in Chinese means to rule the heavens. Chapter 8. Worldly Affairs. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Worldly Affairs. Translator David T. Editor. As time passed, Ling Tian had arrived in this world for a year already. It was the 7th of July the next day, it was also Ling Tian's birthday and the Ling family had already made preparations for a large banquet. It was also the 1-year-old catch for young Master Ling as well. To the Ling family, this was an extremely big event with all the upper echelons within the sky-bearing empire coming to witness the event. At the same time, they will also have a meal and bootlick the Ling family. A year was enough for Ling Tian to understand many things. With his intelligence, the conversations amongst his family members were enough to give Ling Tian a basic understanding of this world. But as he became more informed about this world, Ling Tian became more and more confused. This world, or rather, planet, was extremely different from the Earth which he lived on in his previous life. However, there were many similarities between them. On this planet, there were 3 large continents. Heavenly Star Continent, Heavenly Sun Continent and Heavenly Wind Continent. The continent which the Ling family was in was the Heavenly Star Continent. All of the 3 continents were separated by a large ocean. However, the humans on the 3 continents were not as complicated as those on Earth. The inhabitants on the 3 continents were all of the same skin color. If they were to be compared to the people on Earth, they would be the yellow people representing the Chinese people. It is as though this planet was completely ruled by the yellow people. Furthermore, those demon clans, bestial humans and magic which Ling Tian imagined were non-existent in this world. On the Heavenly Star Continent, the sky-bearing empire was not the only empire. There were a total of 7 to 8 large and small empires. The relationships among the empires were not able to escape from mutual deception and war. However, the strengths of the various empires were similar with their territorial lands evenly divided. As such, all of the empires all covetously eye on one another, waiting for an opportunity to strike. What made Ling Tian the most surprised and puzzled was that the culture on this planet was essentially the same as that on Earth. Here, they also revere Lao Tzu, Confucius, Mencius, Han Fizi and others. At the same time, everyone here spoke Chinese as though it was a planet-wide language. In this world, there was also martial arts. However, as compared to the various sects on Earth, the martial arts in this world was just too pathetic to be compared. Almost all of the martial arts techniques here focused on external martial arts. There were only a few martial arts manuals which were able to allow one to cultivate inner chi. The battles in this planet were fought by cold, hard steel all over. If Ling Tian were to compare the state of this planet to Earth, the state of this planet would be like the Sui and Tang dynasty, where technology was extremely lacking. Ling Tian lamented to himself, with the amount of knowledge I have, I can be said to be like a super prophet on this planet. Goodness, just how would I be able to keep a low profile? Almost everything I say will be like the perfect edition. Furthermore, there are no computers on this planet, no internet, no television or any media. The most ridiculous thing is that there isn't even the most basic media like newspaper. Not to mention the fact that there aren't the Xianhuan or Wuxia novels which I like to read. F***K. As Ling Tian thought about all of these, that was the first word which floated up in his mind. How can I survive like that? Ling Tian was completely frustrated. After taking a look at his grandfather's study once, Ling Tian completely gave up. In the large study, almost all of the books were narrative history and could be said to be the most hypnotic type of books. Apart from the one book called Legend of Heavenly Star Emperor, the rest of the books were filled with derogatory praises which can make a person puke for a full 3 days and 3 nights after reading it. Only his grandfather would be able to pick it up and read it happily every day. From time to time, he even recited them out loud with joy. The thing which Ling Tian's grandfather liked to do the most was hug his grandson while holding a biography in his other hand. He would then read it out and attempt to influence his grandson with culture. After going through a round of that, Ling Tian completely did not like his grandfather anymore. That feeling was even worse than when he was beaten up in the garbage chute and had his martial arts crippled in his previous life. If he had a choice, Ling Tian would rather sit on the tiger bench than hear his grandfather recite. 2. My goodness. Even the words, completely frightening, can barely explain just how it feels. I believe even Buddha would not be able to endure it. Out of helplessness, Ling Tian could only find a hypnotic martial art from his memory and practiced it bitterly. He did not expect it to have any other use other than to hypnotize himself when he was suffering from cultural influence by his grandfather. As such, from that day on, whenever his grandfather hunted him for a session of cultural influence, Ling Tian would hypnotize himself and the effect was wonderful. Ling Tian became silent. He was completely pessimistic and disappointed in this world. He had lost all confidence in this world. If not for the fact that it was just too rare a chance for him to be reincarnated with his memories, Ling Tian would most likely have stopped eating to commit suicide. In that year, the only thing which Ling Tian gained was that the pure Xiantian Qi had finally entered the first stage with the help of the divine dragon shaking formula. Do not look down on the fact that it was only the first stage. You have to know, Ling Tian used pure Xiantian Qi to set the foundation for the first stage of the divine dragon shaking formula. In the martial arts world, this was something which only existed in legends. This meant that Ling Tian would never face the difficulties of breaking through the different acupuncture points which normal martial arts cultivators would face. As long as he continued to cultivate, the qi absorbed would be transformed into pure Xiantian qi in his body. If the meridians of an ordinary martial arts cultivator were like small streams with many obstructions, then the meridians in Ling Tian's body were like large smooth flowing rivers. The both of them just cannot be compared with each other. The difference between Ling Tian and an ordinary martial arts cultivator was like a pauper born into a poor family and a prince born into the imperial family. After entering Xiantian, the biggest benefit was that one would never enter cultivation deviation. In this year, Ling Tian had entered into a martial arts world which he could only dream of entering in his previous life. Immersing himself completely in martial arts without any worry of disturbances. Due to the fact that he still had to play the role of an infant who did not know how to walk or speak, he had a full 24 hours each day to cultivate. This was also something which could not be avoided. If Ling Tian were to run around the place and spew vulgarities from the day he was born, no one would think that he was a genius. Instead, they would only think that he was a monster. When he was tired of cultivating his inner qi, Ling Tian revised all of the martial arts formulae which he obtained from his previous life to ensure that they were all still committed to his memory. In this planet where martial arts knowledge was scarce, Ling Tian knew just how large the wealth of knowledge he had was. If he were to casually use any of these martial arts formulae from his mind, it would be enough to cause a large earthquake on this planet. All of these would be the treasures for him to build his legend and protect his life in future, and nothing could go wrong with them. After carefully sorting through all of the martial arts formulae in his heart, Ling Tian began his next step. That was to sort through all of the martial arts techniques in his mind, which consisted of various fists, swords, palms, movements and many other techniques. In his previous life, Ling Tian's martial arts was crippled. After being saved by Ling Menger, he stayed by the shore of the Eastern Ocean alone, and the only things which entertained him were online games and novels. Because he had a martial arts background, he was naturally more interested in fighting-type games. As he sorted through all of the martial arts techniques, Ling Tian had once again found the feeling of playing online games. Of course, the greatest difference between playing online games and what he was doing was that one was killing in a virtual world while another was a simulation of battles in his mind. Although both were virtual in nature, Ling Tian was able to emulate all of the actions with his own limbs now. As such, the moves which Ling Tian simulated were those of close combat to achieve a one-hit kill. It must be said that it was indeed a large job for Ling Tian to sort through all of this information. There was an uncountable amount of information in Ling Tian's mind, and it was simply impossible to sort through all of that in just a single year. Thus, Ling Tian only picked and chose those which he felt was more important. His first choice was to protect himself, especially since he felt so helpless and unsafe. Thus, his safety was his utmost priority. As Ling Tian lay in the cradle, he closed his eyes, looking as though he was silent and contented. But in reality, his mind was moving rapidly and incessantly. 1. This is an event where various items such as books, brushes, abacus and many more would be placed in front of a child for him to pick one. The item which he picks would be indicative of his inclinations in future. 2. The tiger bench is a cruel method of torture used in China which may result in death. Chapter 9. Young Family Head. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Young Family Head. Translator David T. Editor. Ever since he first lay on the cradle in this life, Ling Tian fell in love with such a feeling. It was as though he had returned to the ocean, the only time in his past life that he could ever feel at ease. Lying on the cradle gave him the impression that he was on board his yacht, facing the sunset and feeling the waves bob the boat up and down. As such, for this period of a year, Ling Tian spent almost half of it lying in that cradle. Tianer, my darling. A gentle voice drifted over, causing the corners of his mouth to unconsciously tug upwards into a happy smile. With hands as delicate as snow and soft as cotton, they lightly pulled him into an embrace. Looking upwards, a tender and warm face filled his vision, with eyes full of indulgent love. This was Ling Tian's mother, Chu Tinger. Beside her was a middle-aged man, about 30 years of age, with a squared face streaked with resoluteness. He could still be considered handsome. A gentle smile rested upon his face, akin to the spring winds, and an expression of satisfaction could be seen from his eyes. This could only be his father, the one who possessed the most authority in the military inside the empire, the head general Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao stooped over, giving Ling Tian's delicate baby face a light kiss. The stubble on his face felt like steel needles, bringing a brief moment of discomfort to Ling Tian, to which Ling Tian glared at him in unhappiness. This little fellow seems to be unwilling, I'll give you more to be unhappy about, As he spoke, Ling Xiao gave him 2 more kisses. Ling Tian ended up with a face full of saliva. Chu Tinger playfully pushed her husband to the side, saying, "Shoo shoo shoo, your beard is so stiff, you're prickling the baby." Is that so? Why didn't you voice it out last night then? Heh. Aya. Ling Xiao spoke, only to have the tender part of his waist being severely pinched by an angry and embarrassed Chu Tinger. Ling Tian did not need to cast his eyes over to guess how wretched his father's face was right then. At that point, he suddenly understood this famous saying from his previous life. Love and pain will always go hand in hand. Our son is just beside us, what nonsense are you spouting now? To think you are already a father. Still simmering with the remnants of her anger, Chu Tinger rebuked huffily. What can this small child possibly know? Don't you agree with me, son? With the reply appeared a handsome face in front of Ling Tian, winking at him. Stop meddling. Hearing the voice of the close exploding Chu Tinger suddenly become much softer, Ling Tian looked over, only to see her buxom and towering chest being impressively covered by a lecherous hand softly massaging it. Ling Tian was filled with fury. K, are you treating me like I'm invisible by displaying such poisonous scenes to corrupt a young person's mind so publicly? Ling Tian angrily grabbed onto that lecherous hand, viciously hauling it off. Our son is blaming me for infringing on his territory, ho. A crisp and bright laughing voice sounded out. With her chest finally freed, Chu Tinger, with a face flushed with embarrassment, spoke half laughingly and half in embarrassed anger, "You baddie." This soul-stirring sight moved Ling Xiao and he couldn't help but lightly grasped onto his wife's slender waist and moved towards her mouth. Dong! However, a kick on his stomach from Ling Tian, still in his mother's embrace, effectively shut him down. This little fellow is so domineering. The couple laughed out together this time round. A pair of footsteps was intermittently heard as it drew closer, before the person spoke, "Sire, Madam, the guests have arrived. The Grand Sire requests that Sire and Madam make their appearance." The voice belonged to a delicate and pretty-faced servant girl standing beside the couple, who lightly whispered to them. "Okay, I understand. Go tell the Grand Sire that we will be right there." My goodness, this should be the young master, right? Ever since this old man stepped out of Phoenix Cry this year, it is my first time seeing a baby. This is a little token from me, nothing great. Carrying their son, Ling Xiao and his wife had just walked into the grand hall when a viridian-colored jade charm floated in front of little Ling Tian. Sir Wang came all the way from another kingdom, braving much hardships. How could I accept this sort of generous gift from you? Please retract your gift, sir, Ling Xiao courteously replied. This Sir Wang was an old man with a snow-white beard and a body covered with well-made robes. Both his hair and beard were meticulously trimmed, and one could tell that he paid the utmost attention to his bearing. Ling Tian curiously opened his eyes, only to see Sir Wang showing his displeasure by blowing up his beard. General Ling's words have a problem there. This gift was presented as a token for your son's first year, and not for General Ling. With so many imperial officials on scene, General Ling doesn't have to worry about any possible imperial impeachment because of bribery. The crowd burst into laughter at his words, echoing his sentiments. He had to be joking. Ling Xiao was currently akin to the right-hand minister, with authority below one and above tens of thousands. Even if an official was tempted with greed, who would dare to go on board this tiger to pick its fleas? Impeach him. That person had to be sick of living. The officials present all thought silently to themselves. This old man Wang just caused all of us to break out in cold sweat with that one joke. Ha ha ha, if that is the case, it would be disrespectful for me to reject you. Then, let this Ling accept your gift in place of my son. Ling Xiao only cracked a smile, seemingly unaffected by this matter. No, this is exactly the opposite. It is General who is giving me respect instead. Ling Tian could not help but roll his eyes. It seemed like this person was going all out to flatter his father, so he couldn't possibly be part of the enemy camp. Has this little brat been named yet? A similarly white-haired old man moved over this time. Ling Tian received a shock. He was already a year old, but it was the first time someone had dared to call him little brat in front of his grandfather and father. It seemed like this guy was not as simple as he seemed. He, old Yang, this old man here hand-picked the name. He's called Ling Tian, isn't the name splendid? His grandfather, Ling Zhan, stood up as he spoke while laughing. As he listened, the more Ling Tian felt that something was wrong. Although Ling Zhan's words contained a trace of laughter, Ling Tian could sense a deeply buried hint of coldness. It seemed like this old Yang wasn't a simple person at all. Pa. As old Yang lightly clapped, he praised, "Indeed your style, Grandfather Ling, to even give such a domineering name to your grandson. Good, such an imposing name, ahaha. I desire to rise above the heavens, what a good name this is." As he finished speaking, the whole hall of over tens of people immediately fell into absolute silence. This old Yang's words could be said to have committed a capital offense. The emperor was also known as the Heavens, and yet Ling Zhan gave his grandson the name of Ling Tian. Even though it could be passed off as a joke, one could also frame Ling Zhan for heresy. This statesman is too polite. Just like how your grandson was named Yang Huang, this old man got a rude shock when I heard it that day, wondering when the Yangs actually gave birth to an emperor. Ling Zhan's eyes flashed with a chilling ray, not yielding in the slightest. Ling Tian was enlightened, as so it turned out, this old chap was actually the head of the Yang family, Yang Kongkun. They were the only ones out of the 6 great family clans in the sky-bearing empire who had the ability to contend against the Ling family. So they were the bad guys. No wonder his face looks like it is constantly asking for a beating. Ling Tian thought to himself angrily. Ha ha ha, so from your old Ling's words, ordinary folks are prohibited to name their children with the characters of dragon or phoenix. Aren't you being too much of a nitpick, old Ling? Twirling his goatee, Yang Kong-kun spoke smilingly. He, if a single phrase from this old man is nitpicking, is it logical for you to talk about my grandson? Ling Zhan was full of anger. Damn that old Yang. When his grandson was born, Ling Zhan had gone there with good intentions to congratulate him. However, not only did Yang Kong-kun not return this favor, he chose a day like his grandson's first-year celebration to pollute the atmosphere. If he had known this was going to happen, he would have stirred that wine he prepared for old Yang's grandson's full month into a pot of mixed soup before sending it to them. Both old men glared at each other like cocks fighting for supremacy, neither willing to compromise. The surrounding civil and military officials could only look at each other in dismay, keeping mum in fear. These two men were people in the sky, bearing empire whose feet could cause the land to shake by just a mere step, and whom their own classes could not afford to offend. One was the Ling family's clan head, the empire's #1 duke, parent of the imperial consort and head general. The other was the Yang family's clan head, the current prime minister of this empire, father of the present empress, father-in-law of the current emperor. If one were to seek death and attempt to interrupt them, they would bring upon themselves a disaster of epic proportions. Those seated nearer to both the old men started to wipe their sweat surreptitiously while edging backwards. All came with good intentions to flatter them and get into their good books, yet they ended up in the middle of a battle between the apex powers of the empire. The crowd could only lament their misfortune. Yang Kong-kun puffed up his goatee and said, "Old Ling, this old man here was only making a casual remark. When did I ever say that your grandson's name wasn't good? This old man here came with good intentions to congratulate you, but look at you, repaying kindness with animosity." 3. Ling Zhan drew back the corners of his mouth, forming a smile that was not really a smile, as he retorted. "That is true. Both of us old fogies gave good names to our grandchildren. However, this old man's grandson seems to be brighter than yours, he. Yang Kong-kun decided to quit while he was ahead and only chuckled, "You may say that, but this old man is much busier as compared to you. Hayes, I have to placate 3 grandsons every day, and the worst part is that I still have 2 granddaughters. One minute I'm carrying one, the next, another. This gives me backaches. This kind of hardship is hard to endure. Unlike you, old Ling, who only has one and is so free, only having to carry him once every few days. You even have time to spend taking care of your garden. What an envious lifestyle." As he spoke, the latter hammered at his waist in pretense with a face full of grievances. Although Ling Zhan was fuming deep inside, he could not come up with a suitable retort. His family was small in number, especially so in Ling Tian's generation, where only one seedling could be seen in a 3,000 miles plot of land. For, Yang Kong-kun's words were obviously targeting at the fact that his house was not as flourishing as his. However, the truth was as such, and Ling Zhan could not straighten his back from this insult. He could only hatefully glare at his son as he scolded, "Useless thing." Ling Xiao had his arms coiled around his wife and child all this while, engrossed with watching the 2 old men fight it out. How could he have foreseen disaster falling from the sky? Now that his own father's anger was directed towards him, he could only shrink back without a word, putting on a bitter expression. If his father were to suggest that he take a concubine in front of the crowd, he would be placed in a difficult situation. Chu Tinger's face was red with embarrassment and anger. Stretching out her slim fingers that were smooth as jade, she gave her husband's waist a vicious pinch and twist. As a daughter-in-law, she naturally could not speak out even if the grandsire's mouth was without tact. However, by her side was a human punching bag, it would be a waste if she did not utilize it. Ling Xiao could only draw in a breath of cold air, grimacing in pain. Ling Tian's little face appeared to be excited at the whole lively scene that was unfolding in front of him. However, he was actually sneering to himself. Old Yang, you need not look so pleased. Since you dared to offend this young master here, I'll make sure I'll send your 3 grandsons into the palace to be eunuchs in a few years' time and trick your 2 granddaughters over to be my concubines. Then I'll see how arrogant you can be. Heh heh heh. Upon seeing the battle between the two come to an end, the crowd could also finally breathe easy. They immediately burst out into idle chatter in an attempt to shift the attention of the 2 old men away from each other in case they decided to go for another round. If they were to start another battle, then wouldn't everyone that had come here today seem like they were here for the purpose of watching a show instead of celebrating? Furthermore, how could anyone of their class be able to such a fiery show without penalty? Conveniently at that moment, an earth-shattering sharp voice sounded from the front door, "The Emperor, Empress and the Imperial Consort have arrived." 1. The surname Ling in Ling Tian's name can also mean to rise high, in this case, paired with his name of Tian, meaning sky or heavens, his name means to rise higher than the heavens itself. 2. The Huang in the name Yang Huang is a homonym that sounds like emperor. Thus, the grandfather was rebutting that they named their child as an emperor, which was also treasonous. 3. Actual phrase for repaying kindness with animosity was supposed to be dog bites Lu Dongbin. The original phrase says, which is trying to say that the dog, person, cannot tell the good person's intentions and thus bites the hand that feeds it. 4. One seedling could be seen in a 3,000 miles plot of land literally refers to the fact that Ling Tian was the only offspring of his generation. Do note that the Chinese mile is only 500 meters. Chapter 10. Framing the Queen. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Framing the Queen. Translator David T. Editor. Ling Tian almost laughed. He finally heard the classic script line. In his past life, he was pulled by his sisters to watch a few different dramas, especially those of the Qing dynasty. There was always an official crying out like that. As such, the most memorable thing Ling Tian had about those shows was the phrase, "The Emperor has arrived." He thought that he wouldn't be able to hear it anymore after entering a different world. Who would have thought that it would still be shouted out in reality? Ling Tian could not help but think to himself, don't tell me this line also came to this world with me. As everyone stood up to receive him, a man who looked about 30 years old dressed in a yellow robe walked in front. He had an average-sized figure and showed signs of putting on weight. His nose and mouth were lifted with an aura of nobility surrounding him. Beside him, there were 2 beautiful ladies dressed extravagantly. Standing beside each other, they each had their own separate kind of beauty. Ling Tian knew that one of the 2 was his own aunt. With a single glance, he was able to immediately identify her. Perhaps, it could be said that he was able to do so even before looking. The lady to the right of the emperor who emitted a chilly and irritable aura was definitely not his own aunt. The lady to the left of the emperor who had a friendly aura and was beaming with excitement to rush over was definitely his aunt, consort Ling Ran. After paying greetings to everyone, Ling Ran ignored her status as a consort and ran over, snatching Ling Tian from Chu Tinger's bosom. The next instant, Ling Tian's face was full of saliva from her kisses. "Ha ha ha, little thing, you're finally not asleep. Aunt has come over to check on you a few times but you were always asleep like a pig. I say, little thing, were you born in the year of the pig in your previous life? Stupid little pig, fragrant little pig, Aunt's Ling Tian piggy. Ha ha ha." Ling Tian broke out in sweat. This aunt of mine is really so valiant. To think that she has come to see me a few times already. What a pity that I have always been asleep. Ha ha ha, sister.in.law, this little child is so fragrant. He is such a cute little piggy. He is just too beautiful to death. Ah. No, I can't say death. Let Aunt kiss you again. Ling Tian stared at his overly enthusiastic aunt with anger. Aunt, although I am your nephew, I am not a clump of dough. It hurts to be rubbed all over by you, you know. Huh, since younger sister loves to have a son so much, you should find the time to have one with the emperor. Then you will be able to play with him all day, ha ha ha. Chu Tinger teased Ling Ran softly. Ah, sister. Law, you're being annoying. Little Tian, ha ha ha, you're so fair. This aunt just can't get enough of you. Brother, look at little Tian's eyes. Wow, he has double eyelids. Also, his face is just so comfortable to rub. Ah, what are you doing? Quickly return him to me. Ling Xiao could not bear to see his son get bullied by Ling Ran like that and snatched his son back. Then, he scolded sternly, you are already a consort, how can you be so unrestrained without bearing your image in mind? Can't you be more refined? You better be careful that the emperor doesn't divorce you. What? Let you hug him for a while longer. My son's face would be all bruised by you if I were to allow that. A yellow-dressed figure then walked in front of Ling Tian and said, how would I do that? Ranner's temperament is just naturally so lively. After so many years, she is still as lively and innocent as ever. We really like him. Ha ha ha, come little boy, let your uncle give you a hug. Following the gentle voice, Ling Tian felt that he was in the arms of another person. He then opened his eyes and looked carefully at the emperor's face as though he was extremely curious. In actual fact, Ling Tian could see the expressions hidden under the emperor's eyes extremely clearly. 1. This was the advantage a child had. Facing a 1-year-old child, everyone's guard would inevitably be reduced greatly, revealing the thoughts which they would usually hide completely. After all, even if the 1-year-old baby was a genius, just what would he be able to understand? But no one would ever guess that Ling Tian actually had a mental age of 26 years old. At this moment, Ling Tian could see the complicated look in the emperor's eyes. There were a few elements of joy, worry and contradiction. Plenty of emotions flashed by his eyes and they were all committed to Ling Tian's memory. Following which, another pair of fair hands hugged Ling Tian. Those were the hands of the empress who had been standing behind the emperor. Ling Tian knew that the empress, Yang Shui, was the precious daughter of the Yang family head, Yang Kongkun. This lady was also the person he wanted to meet the most after he knew that someone wanted to poison his mother and him. Ling Tian then lifted his head and observed this lady closely. Unsurprisingly, this empress lowered her head as though she was only focused on teasing Ling Tian who was in her arms. But from Ling Tian's angle, he was able to see a hidden coldness in her heart together with a deep hatred and worry. However, she was still able to betray her heart and said, Emperor, take a look at how cute this child is. Ling Tian's face turned cold. This lady is definitely related to that event. She is definitely going to be a trouble eventually. Now that I have not grown up yet and am still unable to protect myself, it would be best for me to find a way to restrain her. I must definitely restrain her power. Very quickly, a cunning smile appeared on his face. Ling Tian had an idea. As though he was mumbling something, he stretched out both his hands, with one of them grabbing a strand of hair by her cheek and the other pinching the jade peaks right in front of him. At the same time, he struggled and bit down. An ear-piercing shriek sounded and the empress let go both of her hands. One of her hands reached out to her hair while the other to her chest. As for Ling Tian, his small body began falling to the floor. The surface of the hall was made of solid limestone. Everyone then began to exclaim and Chu Tinger almost fainted from shock. While many words would be required to describe the scene, it all happened in an instant. Ling Ran who was the nearest had rushed forward, saving the small Ling Tian right before he fell onto the floor. The whole event took place at a lightning-fast speed. Ling Tian was already in Ling Ran's bosom before everyone even got to react to the situation. However, everyone clearly saw that the Empress was the one who let go of the child all of a sudden. Her action simply looked like it was premeditated. Furthermore, the Emperor and royal uncle Yang Kong-kun actually did not have any reaction when the child fell down. Instead, the one who caught the child was Ling Ran, who was slightly further away. The next moment, everyone was dumbfounded and the place was filled with pin-drop silence. Everyone all thought, shit just got real. Things probably won't end so easily. Everyone present is extremely worried. This matter can be big or small. If it is small, the Emperor will just suppress the matter and ensure that everything is status quo on the surface. If things get blown up big, it wouldn't be impossible for both the families to fight. If something like that happens, the winds in the sky-bearing empire are going to change for sure. However, what everyone did not see was the delightful smile on Ling Tian's face. The 20 to 30 strands of hair on his right hand silently fell and left no trace on him. As for his left hand, he rubbed his index finger and thumb together as he wore an evil smile on his face, reminiscing something. Empress, what is the meaning of that? How can you bear to harm such a small child? Ling Ran, who was hugging Ling Tian, still had a lingering fear as her body trembled slightly. The moment she composed herself, she began to roar like a lioness. Following which, Chu Tinger clumsily sprinted over with a face full of tears. She hugged Ling Tian's small body tightly in her arms as her body trembled and she began to whimper. Ling Zhan's beaming face turned ashen as his eyes turned red. He glared at the Empress, who was in panic with a killing intent rising in the atmosphere. Even though he was in front of the Emperor, he did not conceal it in the slightest. Ling Zhao's face was completely dull without any expression, with his hands holding on to the hilt of his sword. Facing Ling Ran's interrogation, the Empress's face turned pale as panic filled her eyes. She then stuttered, No, it wasn't on purpose. Just now, that child. He pulled my hair. He pinched my. I really didn't do it on purpose, Emperor. A wave of killing intent towards the Empress filled the place and the atmosphere became deadly. All around, everyone from the Ling family was filled with a killing intent as they grabbed the hilt of their swords. The Empress couldn't bear with the pressure and broke out into tears. The Emperor's face turned ashen and he shouted out with a wave of his sleeves, Men, send the Empress back to the palace. At this moment, the Emperor was already certain that this was definitely a conspiracy between the Empress and her father. However, this conspiracy was just too brainless. She actually enacted such a lousy act in front of the Emperor. Did they really think that the many officials and generals present were idiots? Now that they created such a huge trouble, how would he be able to settle the matter easily? A chill flashed past as he looked at Yang Kong-kun. It seemed that he had given them too much leeway. Wait. Ling Zhan squeezed his way out of the crowd and said, The Empress is going to leave like that. Don't tell me you are not going to give this old man here an explanation. The chill in his tone was like the chilly winds blowing from hell. Duke Ling was enraged. This was something intolerable. The Ling family had a single descendant for 3 generations and his son had no activity for 5 to 6 years after they got married. After waiting for so long, his daughter-in-law's stomach finally rose up as she gave the Ling family a new child. Everyone in the family was extremely careful when taking care of him, caring for him as though he was tofu. But never would he have expected that on such a joyous occasion, Ling Tian would be almost killed by this woman under the watchful eyes of everyone. Too bold. So what if you're from the Yang family? Don't tell me this old man here would not dare to kill you. Yang Kong-kun also became flustered as he stepped forward and anxiously replied, Duke Ling, everyone saw that it was a misunderstanding. Knowing that they were in the wrong, Yang Kong-kun had already lost the pride he displayed earlier. How could he still be concerned about his face at such a moment? Thus, he lowered his pride. Ling Zhan laughed out loud as his voice became solemn, Misunderstanding. Ha ha ha, misunderstanding. Yang Kong-kun, you old bastard. You dare say that such a thing was a misunderstanding. My grandson was almost killed in the hands of your daughter and you dare brush it off as a misunderstanding. Yang Kong-kun was enraged by the fact that he was called an old bastard. However, he could not do anything about it. As sweat filled his whole face, Yang Kong-kun held on to the arm of Ling Zhan and said, "Old Ling, listen to me, this was indeed a misunderstanding. Sometimes, people's hands would slip." Ling Zhan's face changed, slip of hand. Yang Kong-kun, what if this old man has a slip of hand too? A chilly voice sounded. The killing intent within it was not concealed at all. This old man's hand will slip towards the 3 grandson of yours. Yang Kong-kun, what do you think about that? 1. In China, the emperor likes to address himself as we instead of I.